Thank you, Sean. Look, thank you all for coming out. It's super excited to be here. This is a really interesting topic. Now, as Sean mentioned, I'm an economist. I head up a research lab that specializes in blockchain. What economists spend a lot of time thinking about the future of work and the future of technology. But the reason we do this is what we're interested in is this question of sort of a deeper question. I'm not sort of so much going to talk to you about why or what new jobs are coming. I want to dig into the question of why new jobs are coming. And for economists, the basic answer is jobs evolve. There's job destruction. That's a good thing, right? It's the bad jobs that get destroyed. That creates space for new jobs to come along. It's an evolutionary process of continuous job creation, job destruction. What as the previous speakers have indicated to you is this process is accelerating. That's the world we live in now. So we have to sort of prepare for this. But this has always been the case. We've always had job creation, job destruction. All right, why does that happen? Job creation, job destruction happens because the economy evolves. New sort of knowledge is created, new niches occur in the economy. Why does that happen? Because of new technologies, right? So it is new technologies that drive economic evolution, which cause job creation, destruction, or the opportunities for new work. Now, I want to talk about blockchain, and the reason I want to do this is, there's lots of new technologies happen all the time. Thousands every year are invented. Blockchain is a special one. It's like electricity or the internet in the sense that it's a general purpose technology that fundamentally will change the economy. It'll make it better and more interesting in all sorts of ways, but it will be a creative, destructive process. And that's what I sort of want to talk through how that works. So I head up a research center. This is one of the things we're sort of trying to focus on, is not just what is blockchain, how does it work, but what will be the impact on the economy in this space. So I want to go through a few things. It's a relatively new technology. I'm not going to presume you all understand it or have a lot of experience with this. So I'll walk you through what it is in the sort of the 6-minute version of this, and then we'll talk about what this is going to do for the economy and jobs. All right, what is it? Blockchain is the technology behind Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, but cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin aren't the interesting part of this story. The interesting part of the story is blockchain, and to understand what that is, this is a new technology that is going to change the way we've been doing a thing that we've been doing for a very long time. 10,000 years ago or thereabouts, there were 5 technologies got simultaneously invented. Numbers, writing, the economy, history, and money. Right? Now those 5 technologies had a name. Ledgers, basically humans writing down social facts about, these are sort of intersubjective facts about humans. Who is that person? Who owns that cow? Basic facts that are consensus about humans coming together and agreeing on social facts. That technology was the ledger or the book. We needed writing to write it down. We needed numbers for the counting part of it. We needed money for tracking it. That gave us economies. Last 10,000 years, we've used that one technology, the book, the ledger, to keep track of social facts upon which we build economies. Right? Now, what's interesting is that we don't even think of that as a technology, right? That's accounting or it's just writing. That's not a frontier technology. It turns out it is because of the architecture of that particular technology. For the last 10,000 years, we've used a particular architecture that we've never even noticed was there because there was no alternative. And that was centralized ledger technology. A centralized ledger is a book. A government record office is a book. A bank is a book. Just all of the sort of facts that attest to your identity, property rights, transfers, assets, wealth, all of the things we build economies on use centralized ledger technology. And we don't call it that because that would be absurd. So for 10,000 years, one architecture of how we keep track of social facts. 2009, January the 3rd, the first time in 10,000 years that technology shifted. And this was the invention of Bitcoin and blockchain at the same time. Now, there's some technology behind how it does this. We don't really have, this isn't the time or place to go into that. But what was invented then was decentralized ledger technology. Centralized ledger technology, decentralized ledger technology. That's what just happened. That's blockchain, was this new architecture of how we keep track of social facts. Right? So Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and all of those sort of words, there's a bunch of them there. These are the technologies that go into it. There's 5. They're all invented in the 1970s. We could have had this technology a long time ago. It took a particular weird genius to put it together in 2008. But each of these are the technologies behind it out of database engineering, public key cryptography, peer-to-peer networking, that's the internet or email, game theory. We required a whole sort of bunch of breakthroughs in economic theory and consensus algorithms. Put those technologies together, you get decentralized ledger technology, which replaces the 10,000-year run of centralized ledger technology. All right. So that's what it is. It's a new technology of doing social truth. All right. What is social truth? That's what we build economies on. What does that mean? It means when a new technology of how we build economies changes, you can bet jobs are going to change as well. Not just jobs, industries. All right, so I kind of just help you out on this. Some of you may have seen that sort of that little gold B coin thing. That's a Bitcoin in the media. That's not a real thing, by the way. That doesn't exist. That's what a Bitcoin looks like on the other side, just if you're interested. But that doesn't work as well in the media. All right, so what's a blockchain? Long technical definition. It's a ledger. It's a new technology of ledgers. What's a ledger? The way the humans record social facts so they can build economies and history and all of the things. So 10,000 years, one technology, we just got a new one. Very, very recently. That's why everyone's confused and excited. Better definition. What is a decentralized ledger? It's a way of using computers, connecting them all up, so that we don't have a single book in the center. We have the books are distributed across all of the networks, and we've got a consensus, a way of updating those books so that whatever book we check, it's the true book, right? It's a new architecture of recording social facts. The implication of this, though, is that all of the things we needed for centralized ledgers, like banks and governments and so on, and hierarchical organizations, we might not need them in the same way. That's the disruption that's coming, right? So that's blockchain, the technology. A bunch of things out of database engineering and peer-to-peer networking and cryptography and blah, 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 blah. So what? New economy. New foundation layer of how we do the record keeping upon which we build economies. That's why myself and my team, a bunch of economists looking at the future of the economy, got so excited when we saw this technology. We're like, wow, this is the biggest thing that's happened in 10,000 years. Now, what can we go on? Well, the reason we think this is going to be revolutionary is every other time ledger technology shifted, we got new economies. So for long periods of time, not much shifted, thousands and thousands of years went past. Writing got better, we got more writing, we got more numbers, we got better ways of recording it, we stopped using stone and we started, on we went. Then around 1412 in Italy, a new invention came about called double entry bookkeeping. That was a way so that you didn't have to, a single entry is you have to trust the person that wrote the single entry. Double entry bookkeeping allows you to verify and audit a book. So what? The firm. Right? That gave us organizations. That gave us capitalism. That gave us the ability to raise finance and use that finance to build companies to do stuff. Economies just went on a huge kick from that new technology of ledgers. Around sort of 100 years ago or so, we got better at digitizing. We started the digitization, or the mechanization of ledgers. This is companies like IBM and so on, the thing that we own from that. What did that give us? Globalization, right? When ledger technology changes, economies change at a fundamental level. January the 3rd, 2009, ledger technologies just changed again, right? So our lifetimes, we're going to be dealing with the implications of this. All right, so what does that mean? It's a computer sciencey, databasey, engineering, peer-to-peer networking, economicsy, technology. It's new economic infrastructure just got, or the technology for this just got built. Right? So we're still figuring out how to turn this into next generation economic infrastructure. Economic infrastructure is things, you normally think of that as roads and ports and sort of phone lines and sort of physical infrastructure through which goods and services flow. This is administrative infrastructure for recording contracts, payments, identity, verification, auditing, compliance, tax records, all of the sort of administrative infrastructure. The way in which we can do that just shifted. Now, we haven't done it yet. It's only happened 10 years ago. And that's very, very recent in this space. But the implication here is this is a new foundational infrastructural layer upon which we will build not just the next generation of economy, but everything that is digital in the economy will live on this, because it will need record keeping about who is that machine, when did that machine talk to the other one, what assets has it got, and so on. So another way of thinking of blockchain is third generation of the internet. First generation was communication, right? Email, basically, was, for the first 40 years, email was the high point, and that was an awesome thing, digital communication. The next generation of the internet was threading that together and building communication into social communication, right? That's Facebook and Google and so on was the next generation. The problem with those two things was that was awesome for communication. But the one thing the internet could never do, by the very definition of how it does communication, how the internet works is when you send an email, you're not sending the email, putting it in a thing and sending it, you're copying it. You've still got the email once you've sent it. That's proof that it wasn't sending, it was copying. Right? That's fantastic for communication. It massively lowered the cost of dissemination of information revolution. The problem was that's horrible for money. If you send the money and you've still got the money, you just broke money. That's money that really doesn't work, because I'll just keep sending it. That's the best money. Money doesn't work that way. You need to create scarcity. It also doesn't work for contracts, identity records, anything where you need to know when it has changed, and you need to have a controlled version over that. Right? That's what all of those ledgers were doing, those registries of who owns this cow, who is that person. Right? You can't have them on the internet because you need version control and auditing and checking. What is blockchain? We just did it. We just created digital scarcity, a way of creating a record such that when I send my digital object, I don't have it anymore. I sent it. I didn't copy it. Right? That's what blockchain does. That's all it does. But upon that, we can put entire economies natively on the internet digitally. That's what's just happened, which means that any technology that builds on digital platforms, such as autonomous vehicles and so on, those things cannot just be cannot just be physically autonomous, navigating around. They're now economically autonomous. They can contract, they can prove identity and ownership and so on. So, Internet of Value. We've now got, for the first time, a way of building, this is a digital internet platform that works in an economy, not just works as a communication protocol and tool. Right, again, that's what just changed. What is cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin? The first use case of money being there. Right, that's just the beginning. And by far the least interesting part of it. Probably the most interesting part is just registries and other sorts of records and contracts and so on. So what that means, what is blockchain? Digital assets move to the internet. Everything, right? A cryptocurrency is money doing that, but then we'll move all the other assets. We'll start with stocks, bonds, we'll move through property titles, registries. Those are the big ones. Then we'll move down to the smaller things. We'll do data. Data will have property rights. You'll be able to buy and sell data markets. Intellectual property, and on that goes. What just happened, now it's international and global. So we've just globalized, and we've just created a new type of globalization. Digital assets exist on the internet, whereas the internet everywhere. Right? It's not in Australia or in China. It's everywhere. securities, knowledge, everything. All right, so this is coming. All right. One example of this, just to sort of lock down what this means. Who benefits from this? The humans benefit. Awesome for the humans. Also good for the robots. For the problem with robots and drones and all of the autonomous vehicles we've been building right now is we've gotten really good at the engineering of their navigation in the world. We're getting there with that. Bunch of awesome technologies combined. As I said before, the limit there is that those things haven't had an emancipation yet. We still own them, control them. They still need a human in the loop, not just for the override of control, but to do the contracting, to do the ownership, and so on. That might change in some really interesting ways, in the sense that blockchain technology can enable a autonomous whatever to do identity. At the moment, only the humans have identity. We've got passports and driver's license. I can prove who I am in a digital context. If they can do identity, they can hold assets, which means they can have legal liability and ownership, which means they can contract. They can start making payments. What might that look like? A self-owning taxi that owns itself. When it needs repair, it contracts a human to fix itself. What does it pay with, say, cryptocurrencies that it made picking people up? Who owns it? It does. Is that weird? Yes. Very weird. But that's only weird because of the way we've done ledgers for the past 10,000 years. We've had them centralized and based around sort of human ownership. All right. We move everything to the blockchain. Right? All of the things in an economy that have value, we can now create digital representations of those things, and whoever holds the digital representation owns the thing. Right? That's coming. We can do that now. We haven't gone there yet, but that's the things we're working through in this phase now. If you can do that, what does that create? That creates a platform, an economic platform, upon which these next generation technologies of Internet of Things and 5G and AI and VR and all of those digital technologies, that powers them up. That provides a huge boost for those technologies. So now we've got a complete digital technology stack where blockchain is doing the economic administrative infrastructure layer at the bottom, which is providing a series of things that so far we've relied on governments to do that. Now, some governments are good at that. The Australian one's pretty good. Some governments are horrible at that. Those places tend to be poor. So this is a real sort of revolution in basically going completely around broken, corrupt governments and just building everything directly on blockchain for the economic layers of identity, registry, property, so on. So huge development economics implications. All right, work. Just in the final few moments, 2 minutes, let me just talk you through some examples in one particular sector we've been looking at. We're in a process of helping sort of design what we're calling the Australian Creative Blockchain, which is a new sort of infrastructural utility for the creative industries. Right? Now, why would they want that? Well, a lot of the creative industries isn't just creatives doing design. A lot of them is them filling out forms, doing their taxes, arguing over property rights violations, trying to figure out who contracted with whom when they did the joint thing so they can get... a lot of administrative infrastructure in industries is expensive, broken, and very difficult to work with, and nothing more than the music industry. So the problem with the music industry, it's a global industry stuck in individual nations. The main problem you've got as a musician is finding out who in all the other countries that's not your country is stealing your music, and then trying to figure out ways to bill them for it, or figure out ways to sort of create new business models to create money out of that. A lot of excitement around blockchain by simply releasing music completely digitally native onto blockchain, which means that digital rights management and property and intellectual property are built into the music itself, not a separate service that you provide afterwards. What that means is that musicians don't need managers and record labels and collections agencies and all this other apparatus that more or less takes all of the money that they make and siphons it away. Disintermediation is the word we call that. But the music industry has been one of the early adopters of blockchain technology precisely because it's solving a huge problem they've got. which was just music is fun to make, it's hard to make money out of, unless you're a superstar. This is a technology that enables the non-superstars to create a living out of this. Multiply that through every other creative industry that involves teams of people coming together to do creative things in contract. When studying the future of fan fiction, right? There's another one, right? So fan fiction, things like Star Wars and so on, if you want to make sort of epic storytelling, you usually have to have a huge organization with a sort of George Lucas or someone at the top. The problem is that business model makes it very, very hard to come together. I mean, one of the things that just doesn't make money, for instance, is fan fiction, just because it's so hard to keep track of who did what when and to create monetary streams of revenue back from that. Again, blockchain technology is a way of dramatically lowering the cost of keeping track of who did what when, because it's just absolute version control, unfakeable version control of records of what happened in a creative product, and then tying that to cryptocurrency payments from subsequent things going forward. So a lot of creative professions that involve people coming together to do complex one-off things together and then needing to keep track of that possibly for 40 years into the future. This is awesome technology for that. We're seeing a lot of experiments in the visual art space. This is Dada, which is a new online visual gallery that is essentially releasing digital works direct to blockchain and using that space as a way for artists to collaborate with each other on this. And I'll finish with this one. It's one of my favorite examples. This is Primavera De Filippi, one of my co-authors based in Boston. And she's developed this, also an experimental artist, and she's developed this plantoid. Now, what plantoid is a mechanical sculpture up in the right-hand corner, and with a Bitcoin wallet. And plantoid does a little dance for you, and if you can tip it Bitcoins if you want. And what plantoid is, though, is an artwork with a Bitcoin wallet built into it that self-replicates when it gets enough Bitcoins or cryptocurrencies. It goes out and hires an artist. It hires that artist to come up with an interpretation of itself, a new version of it. It hires the artist to build another version of it. And now the artist and the plantoid collectively own the property rights in that thing. It's an evolving, living artwork that's where this notion of the artist owns the artwork has been reversed. The artwork contracts the artist to build more art, to create more art, and on it goes. That's a fascinating implication of the way in which, if we think through the topic that we started with, how will jobs shift? Possibly much more than you think they will. None of this has been discussion about you working for a company doing a thing. This is fundamental shift in the architecture of how we create value together and keep track of that. I think it's much deeper than just, yes, jobs will change, absolutely. But it goes much further than that. We're about to face, I think, some fundamental shifts in the way in which jobs are even conceived or who hires you. So Plantoid is an example of the artwork hiring the artist to jointly create value, and that being a collective thing they do into the future. Thank you.